Naftali Bennett, welcome to the program.
Great to be here.
Let me ask you, because clearly you want the court case to rule in your favor. But Amona, like many of the outposts, is illegal, not just under international law, but also Israeli law, since it sits on private Palestinian land. What are you expecting to happen? Are you expecting the settlement to remain?
We'll abide by the law. Whatever the Supreme Court will decide at the end, we will certainly abide. But I'll tell you that international law, or I would say more accurately, the nations of the world, many of them don't recognize Jerusalem as our capital. In fact, I think most of them don't, yet Jerusalem is our capital. So, you know, we can't act only by what the world will say.
But you've also said that you believe this whole situation is, and I'll quote, the first step to extending Israel's sovereignty over Judea and Samaria, which is what you term the West Bank. Are you expecting all these outposts to be approved in terms of being annexed?
What you call outposts are, in fact, communities, pretty big communities in some cases. Absolutely. My vision of the future is separation. Where we would apply Israeli law on the Israeli-controlled areas in Judea and Samaria, where there's roughly 500,000 Israelis and only about 70,000 Arabs who would be granted Israeli citizenship, full Israeli citizenship, and the rest of the area, what's called Area A and B, would become an autonomy, a self-governed area, because the Palestinians already have a full-blown state in Gaza. So that would be the end game. Separation, they have an autonomy, a state, and we apply law on the Israeli areas.
Well, I know you say that. However, it pits you against your current prime minister. At least that's what I understand from his latest interview with 60 Minutes. And I'd like to play that for you.
Two states for two peoples. And that's where I'm focused. Yeah, I'd like to help to have President Trump, when he gets into the White House, help me work on that. I'd like to see if the Arab states can help me achieve that. It's a new reality, new possibilities.
So he's claiming that his government still abides by the internationally accepted two-state solution in which the West Bank, you know, most of it with the Palestinians would be part of that.
I respect Prime Minister Netanyahu, but I profoundly disagree with that vision. And what I'm trying to do in Israel is garner more and more support for my vision, which is an autonomy and a strengthened area in Judea and Samaria. And I'll tell you, more and more Israelis and more people around the world are understanding that, you know, if you try something once and twice and a third time, and each time it fails, you got to try something new.
The only
I
thing
come
is,
from the business world. If a manager of mine would come and say that 3 times I failed, I'd fire him.
Here's the thing, though. You may be on the verge of committing national suicide. And I say that because even the Palestinians are now coming to talk about potentially a one-state solution. But you know what that means for you, don't you? It means demographically, because of the birth rate, it would eventually be a Palestinian state, or it would not be a democratic Jewish Israeli state. So I guess what I'm saying, if you get what you want, isn't that the end of the dream as you see it?
Quite the contrary. My approach is of separation, the sort of the Puerto Rican model. So the Palestinians would live in their autonomy. They would elect and vote for their government. They would govern themselves, everything barring one main thing, which is an army. The second thing is they won't be able to flood Israel with 6 million great-grandchildren of 1948 refugees.
Naftali Bennett, Education Minister in the current government, thank you very much indeed for joining us. And now we're going to move on. As much as we tried to get a debate on these issues, we could not convince either side to do that. So we're going now to Tzipi Livni, who is former Justice Minister, and she is also one of the leaders of the opposition. Tzipi Livni, you've been hearing and listening to this part of the conversation. What is wrong with Naftali Bennett's suggestion to have some kind of separation in the heart of the territory there?
Bennett and I represent completely different visions for the state of Israel. while he's speaking about the land of Israel, and I do believe also in the rights of the Jewish people on the entire land, my vision for the state of Israel is keeping the values of Israel as a Jewish democratic state, and therefore separation from the Palestinians means that it should be based on two states for two peoples, when each state gives an answer to national aspiration of different peoples. And the only way to do so is by hopefully reaching an agreement or taking some steps forward. By the way, I heard that Bennett is saying that more and more Israelis supports his vision about Greater Israel, which is wrong.
Okay, but there's a new poll from the Israel Democracy Institute, which last week polled and said 44% support annexing the West Bank, while 38% oppose it. That's of Israelis. Doesn't that concern you?
Yes, it is. What concerns me is the future of Israel as a Jewish democratic state. Basically, it's about us. It's not only about us and the Palestinians or us and the international community. It's about the nature of the state of Israel. It's about the values of the state of Israel. It's about Israel as a democracy and keeping the Jewish values as well. It is true that less and less Israelis, and unfortunately Palestinians also, believe in the idea that we can reach an agreement, and there is more and more despair, less and less hope, and part of our responsibility as leaders is to recreate this hope.
Then in that case, Ms. Livni, obviously this current government has not rekindled that hope and it hasn't seemed to take any proactive measures.
No.
And nor have previous governments, and nor has the opposition been able to rekindle this hope. In other words, the narrative of the international community, the vision of a two-state solution, is being allowed to die. What are you going to do about it?
As I said before, it's about us. It's about a decision that Israelis need to make. It's not a favor to the Palestinians. It's not even a favor to any president of the United States or the international community. But first and foremost, I believe that this is something that we need to decide. We need to decide here in Israel, where are we going? What is the vision for the state of Israel? How do we keep these values? It's not it's basically should be, and it is an internal debate here in Israel. This government represents different vision. Prime Minister Netanyahu still speaks about two states for two peoples, but I believe that this is also his test, whether he's willing to move forward on the basis of two states for two peoples. And I hope that having a new president-elect, this is a moment in which the vision and the policy should be defined between Israel and the U.S.
What do you expect? Because, you know, there may be, they pride themselves as businessmen, as does Naftali Bennett, who are able to make deals. And you've seen populist sentiment, not only in the United States, but in Europe. And you've seen in your own country, the settlers movement move from the fringe to mainstream.
I believe that annexing the entire territory, the West Bank, Judea and Samaria, this is a lose situation. This would bring a clash between the values of the state of Israel as a Jewish democratic state, and therefore I believe that this is the worst case scenario.
Tzipi Livni, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.